Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the number one show to bring you all things Club America in English, from tactical analysis
Pelota para la banda izquierda.
to player updates. We've got you covered on all the latest news on Las Águilas. Now, let's start the show. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. Today, we're going to be breaking down a little bit of what was the victory against Columbus Crew in the Campeones Cup. We'll talk about the failure that was the Clásico Capitolino against Pumas. And then to finish off the show, we are going to be joined by special guest, Ms. Kari Torres from the Lions Den podcast to preview the upcoming game against León. So, plenty to talk about in regards to Las Águilas del América, a lot to get through. And a portion of the podcast is going to be done solely by me due to the fact that no one else was available to come on the show today. So it is a bit unfortunate, but hey, you guys have me for a little bit. So if you guys want to get your questions in or anything in the comments section, let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer or just read out loud any of your guys' opinions in regards to Las Águilas del América and what's been going on in this very topsy-turvy season that we've been having with America. So shout out to Ritual, who's giving us the peace sign. What's up, my man? Hopefully you've had a good couple of days after that loss against Pumas, and we'll get to that in just a second. I think it's only fair and just that we speak about the Campeones Cup victory first, since that was kind of the original thing that we were talking about last week on our very special edition of the Campeones Cup episode. So kind of retracing our steps in that sense. Obviously, we were coming into that game with expectations that it was going to be a very tough match for America. And it necessarily wasn't the hardest game that we've had all season. But I think we previewed it very well in saying that America was going to come into this game a little bit wounded by the fact that obviously with all these injuries and all these players out, it was always going to be a difficult ask to go into Columbus, dominate a game, and come out on top with very little to give to the opponent. But I think we orchestrated that game very well. I think the first half was a good one on our part. We found a way to contain Columbus very well in their own stadium, in front of their own fans, which is not an easy thing to do, especially with the reigning MLS champions and probably one of the best teams right now at the moment during the current MLS season. So America went in there, did a very good job. I think in the second half, Columbus tweaks a little bit their tactics and opens up America a little bit more. But I think at that point, Andre Jardine kind of had figured out that eventually something was going to have to give. And so, he opted out for some substitutions that ended up kind of working out in the sense, right? We get the Davila goal. I think America goes ahead and you feel like, okay, the goal goes in and you're thinking, perfect, great, this is exactly what we need. We knew that it was never going to be the most prettiest of games. But at the end of the day, you get a goal, and we said that getting the first goal was going to be so important for America because the last thing you want to do is be chasing a game against the likes of Columbus. And so at that point, you kind of dictate and orchestrate the match even more so. But America's Achilles heels, again, comes back to kind of haunt us in the sense that we're not good at defending set pieces. And because of that, we see the goal that America concedes and Columbus then go ahead and, levels it up. And now you're thinking to yourself, okay, we still got about 15 minutes or so to kind of bring it back and find another goal. But it just felt a little bit, I don't even know what the right word to use here is. It felt very, I guess, just kind of to throw a word here, not just stalling in my phrases here. It felt a little hopeless in the sense of what is America going to do going forward. I felt like with this back five, we didn't really give ourselves much of an opportunity going forward. And that's something that I actually was very much frustrated about in this game, was that we didn't really have an avenue going forward. And I think that resembled a little bit more against Pumas, and I will get to that game, and I'll talk about the frustrations that game was. But ultimately, it felt like America was very limited to what we were capable of doing, and I think you saw that because once you get the goal, and the goal is a very well worked counterattack where Davila finishes a 1v1 situation. But after that, you just feel like America didn't really have an avenue going forward. It was you either get them on the counterattack or you kind of don't. You didn't have much depth going forward. You couldn't really stretch the field because, your wingbacks weren't typically doing what your wingers necessarily do, right? Which is kind of open up the field and then kind of cut inside and create channels for your fullbacks to then run into or your certain forwards to run into certain channels. So that wasn't going to be the case whenever you're playing a back five. So that was the frustrating thing about it, is that America didn't really have an outlet per se to kind of pursue an attack in the way that we've seen, or the way that we're accustomed to seeing America kind of push forward. And so it just felt like there was no answer for us going forward after we conceded. And then, the game ends, we go straight into the penalties. And I think, credit to the boys who called that this game was going to be won in penalties, right? That was Chris and that was Dylan. So shout out to them. They said that this game was potentially going to go to penalties, and it did. And I was very hesitant, and I was very, very worrisome because America and penalties have just not been good for us in recent years, right? And I don't think I have to go way back. I think, right, our exit against Colorado, the dramatic exit against Nashville in Leagues Cup, both of those instances, just penalty shootouts have not been the most favorable of things for America. But at the end of the day, you kind of had to go in there and hope for the best. And I was very hopeful. I wanted Malagon to kind of step up and have a bigger performance than he did against Colorado. And he did so, right? He blocked 2 penalties. It was important that he did what he did. And the penalty takers were pretty much spot on, with the exception of Ramon Juarez, who could have won it for us, which I thought he was going to win it for us, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But ultimately, right, America wins in very dramatic fashion, right? Of course, it always had to come to a dramatic way because of the penalty that Columbus misses, right? Luis Malagon is off his line. And no one here is not going to say that he is not off his line. He definitely is off his line, but the penalty can be considered as missed because he doesn't interfere with the actual penalty taker. It's not like he blocked it, so it doesn't have to be retaken in any sense, right? The ball goes in 2 different directions in difference to what Malagon went to. Malagon goes one way, ball goes the other way. It just kind of is what it is in that sense. And yeah, it was great. It was good, and it was good to see that, Nestor Araujo, someone who we've definitely have been heavily criticizing throughout this whole year of podcasting. He's been a target of our criticism, and he has deserved it in a sense. But he won us the matchup, won us the game, and there's no other better way to put it than he deserved all the praises in that sense. And so America ends up winning it, taking it home. And that was a very euphoric feeling for like about 24 hours, because then obviously you shift focus and you understand that afterwards you kind of go in and you have to focus on Pumas. So yeah, that's kind of be our next point of topic, which is going to be Pumas. But I do want to bring in our guest before we do talk America versus Pumas, just briefly before we start talking America versus Leon. But seeing as how our guest is here and I am left a little bit by myself here, I am going to bring in our very special guest for today, which is none other than Miss Kari Torres. Kari, how are you?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you on the podcast. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Always looking forward to these Leon versus America matchups. As we all know, they're always very controversial or very, strong games. But been a while, but I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Glad to have you. We'll get to the America Leon talk in just a minute here. I kind of want to finish wrapping up my little recap here. I just finished talking to the people about Campeones Cup. I know that you guys touched upon it a little bit on your guys' podcast. You guys said that this was very much a make believe trophy, which is fine. You know, it's okay. I think that the whole media ran with it. And if
The
America would
whole
have lost the tournament, the trophy, the media would have ran with it and said that America failed and fracasó and all that stuff. So I love it. I love it. There's no two ways for America to win in this situation, and so it just demonstrates that
no,
there's always a narrative.
well, I think especially with the media, they always take something and run with it, whether it's positive or negative. I think it, like you said, depends on the circumstance. And I mean, despite whatever the Campeones Cup actually is, I mean, I've always said you guys have a really good squad, very strong team. Even though maybe some things in the current season haven't been 100% going towards your way because you are where you are at the table, but mean, you guys always have had really good players, strong team. I mean, if you guys end up against an MLS club, obviously I'm going to want you guys to win, period, because I'm all Liga MX ride or die when it comes to Liga MX against anybody else. But yeah, congratulations on that cup. And yeah, I mean, obviously on our pod, we'll have our divided opinions on stuff, and we'll agree on some things as well. But regardless, I mean, congratulations, you guys have a strong team, and I think despite you guys being where you are on the table, I mean, no team can underestimate you moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to go on record and say that these are the nicest words Kari has ever said in regards to America. So I'm definitely gonna clip this moment and just kind of save it in the archives for future references. But thank you. It's right. On one moment we're lifting a trophy in Columbus, and the next we're frustrated and angry at the fact that America's putting in a poor performance against the game against most of the MX matches when your time is available.
I did not watch it just because I actually thought America was going to win. So I didn't watch it. And just to go on record, yes, I think with me in America, and like I said, it's just the history that Leon has against America, and obviously I'm a Club Leon fan. So I think that kind of moves towards that. But regardless, we have to come through with what is right and give credit to gives credit to. And,
Mm-hmm.
I thought you guys were going to win. So um, I'm sorry to hear that didn't work out your way. And obviously, our game against Ditas wasn't the way us Leon fans wanted to. So now it's an interesting matchup for both of our teams now moving
Yeah, no,
into this
absolutely.
weekend.
It's gonna be a fun matchup and everything. We'll get into the sense of it. Um, we have a message from I Like Planes saying audio question mark, and I think he says sorry. Maybe it's just me. And Chris saying nah, it's just you. So for a second, I was worried. I was like, okay, my audio levels here on my side are showing that are good. But hopefully, I Like Planes was able to fix his audio situation, and now he can hear us perfectly.
Cool.
But yeah, it was. I think a lot of people had America winning this game quite easily and comfortably. I was actually listening to earlier that week. I was listening to kind of MLS's preview of Campeones Cup with America and Columbus, and I think it was Matt Doyle who was talking about America and kind of the dominance that they've had, obviously with the bicampeonato and everything. And he said, that they were going to come up. They have an important game right after against Pumas, and he said, but that should be an easy victory, right? And I think it stems from the fact that there was, Pumas was going through a little bit of a dip in their season as well. So I think a lot of people kind of pegged America to be the just pegged America to be kind of the favorite team coming into this one. And so it was unfortunate that we didn't deliver in that aspect. And America came in very heavily rotated, right? And we kind of saw what the preference was. It was to win this trophy over the game against Pumas. But, it's kind of important that America does good on both fronts. and they didn't. They kind of let people down. Looks like we might be having audio issues. Chris Rivera saying, Ivan, you can cuss words. We can't hear you. I like Plain saying, yeah, visuals is good, but audio is cutting off from here. And Club America es mi pasión saying, for me, it cuts too. So, let's see. He's saying, I don't think. It's okay, guys. For those of you who can't listen right now, and for those of you just listening on this audio version, they're going to be like, what's going on? Why? Everything sounds okay on our end.
Yeah, I hear you good and everything.
Yeah, so I think that is the odd part about it. Let me see.
Maybe tell them if they've tried turning it on and off.
Yeah, I think for on our end we're gonna be fine. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. I think it's gonna be the streaming aspect of it. And honestly, the only way I can think of fixing this is turning it on and turning it back on. Okay, give me a second, guys. We're gonna end the stream here. For anyone listening to this, I'm probably gonna cut this out from the audio version. Okay. Midwestern Cholo saying audio is fine with me, so I'm very confused. So who else is having issues right now? You know what? Let me just log in. Let me just put it on my YouTube. Let's see if by then it can never be an easy show, you know? It's always gotta be something going on with us. Okay, I'm seeing things on my phone right now, and I think it's fine.
Maybe they should just refresh it.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm looking at it fine right here, guys. Anyone else having issues? See, wonder if it's the same on Twitter. Works on Twitter.
Are you on YouTube too?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube too.
And it's good? Yeah.
I like playing refreshed works now. Yeah, guys, let's refresh it a little bit. I have no idea how I'm gonna cut this out for the audio version, but we'll I'll find a way to get to that. But yeah, Pumas America, it was a frustrating game to watch. America goes back with the back line of going back 5, and it felt frustrating because I alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast when I was talking against what America did against Columbus and kind of that there was no real outlet going forward. It felt like that. It felt like Pumas was kind of pushing our buttons just because they know how to do that. It's a very physical matchup. They know that whenever you do play against America, if you can get physical, you're gonna throw them off their game. They did that last year, and it worked for them great. Then again, they repeated it, and so it was frustrating to watch that America was falling to the same game and didn't have an answer. I felt like Kari came very, very precautious to this matchup. He wanted to kind of plug the back with as much defensive presence, and it just kind of backfired because whenever America did go down, they just didn't have an answer going forward. We didn't have width. We didn't have continuity with our attacking players. It felt like Davila and Aguirre were just kind of left alone in an island where really no service was going to be given to them because there was no avenue to get to them whatsoever. And it was just one of those matches where you think, was it a smart idea coming in, going back 5? And I think it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating in the sense that America came out very reserved. It's not the America DNA, and it's. I would have much preferred that we go back 4, play our usual game, and if we end up losing that game 3-2, I would have been in a much better position than if we lose this game 1-0, but we didn't have anything going forward. So I think that's the frustrating part about it. Chris is saying, call it what it is, Ivan. We sacrificed the Necaxa and Pumas game for the Columbus game, and maybe so. Maybe we did, because we knew that this trophy in this tournament was important to us, and that was the objective. And it's another trophy in the cabinet. And I don't think anyone's gonna kind of complain about that. So I think you win some to lose some, and I think America wanted that Campeones Cup more than scaling the table. But it still doesn't mean that we're not in a dire situation. I mean, America's still not in a play-in situation, and that in itself is unacceptable. So, but good news, Kari. Look, it says it works now. Club America es mi pasión, saying it works now, so we're good. We're good,
Cool.
absolutely good. But yeah, frustrating things all around. America ends up losing, dropping 3 points in a Clásico Capitolino. Pumas and their fan base will celebrate it as they've won their trophy. And America just has to kind of lick their wounds and keep it going. And this game against Leon is, I think, in a way, Kari, a 6-pointer for both teams, seeing as how we're so close to each other in the table. So, especially both teams trying to scale their way into playoff seeds in the table. So it'll be interesting. It should be fun. But yeah, that's kind of my little recap of America's week. Obviously, the highs of winning in Columbus, and the lows, of course, of losing to Pumas in the Clásico. And so I'm sure when Chris comes back on next week, we'll have a lot more to discuss, especially depending on how this game against Leon goes. We'll see exactly. Well, with that said, Kari, let's jump into this Leon versus America matchup. I kind of want you to talk to me a little bit about this rivalry that stems between America and Leon. At what point do you think that this rivalry is given kind of a birth? When do you think that for you, America becomes kind of this hated, fierce opponent?
I think ever since I can remember, I mean, obviously, being a Club Leon fan is not like a norm compared to being a typical Pumas, America, Chivas, Monterrey Tigres fan. But obviously, if you think back to when Leon won el campeonato, obviously Piojo's was coaching America and everything like that. But I mean, I think it stemmed a while back, and if Javi was on this podcast, he would tell you the exact date and who was managing and everything. He's really good with all the history behind it. But I think for me, it's just ever since I can remember, every Leon versus America game was always very intense, regardless if it was at the Azteca or at home. But it was just always very intense. It's kind of like, also when you guys play Pachuca, I feel like those games are always kind of intense as well. It's always like a fun type of game. So I think with Leon and America, it's just always been there, and it will always be there. Really close matches. I feel like they just play with a bit more of like, we have to beat America, and you guys as well, like, oh, we have to beat Leon because they're giving us a fight, So I think for me, it's just ever since I can remember watching Liga MX and for my little club Leon, kind of coming back into La Primera and just from there taking off how they did. I think it's always been an existing.
Yeah, because I think that this rivalry does come from a Midwestern Cholo saying, is it really a rivalry though? But I'm maybe not so much in the America of eyes, maybe more so in the Leon aspect of it. But I think that for sakes and purposes, obviously you guys were a minute in second division, so we early 2000s we don't really get to see that much, and we weren't in our best shape in those days either. But I do think that one of the most iconic games is definitely going to be the final that you guys ended up winning at the Estadio Azteca, right?
Yes.
The match where I have no idea how Narciso Mina was able to miss so many open opportunities, and William Yarbrough played out of his skin that day as well. So I think that is when peak rivalry for Leon and America kind of is born. And ever since then, I think that you see, a much more very well fought out matchup whenever America and Leon do end up facing each other, right? So many good games um across across the timeline, you know, games where you guys end up coming on top, games that we end up coming out top. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that we were playing you guys in what was the start of our B Campeonato in the playoffs whenever we
Mhm.
did face off against you guys in the quarterfinals. And so I think that there was obviously a lot of history there and a lot of good matches. And I hope that Saturday's matchup lives up to the intensity. I know that both teams are not in the best shape or in the best state, especially this time around. But I think overall, you know, you guys have a point to prove, and I think we do too. And so it should be a fun matchup, regardless of both teams kind of being at the bottom half of the table. So let me read a couple of comments here saying Chris saying Pachuca will lose to everyone and then go all out against us. Absolutely. It's
Those are always great games, but you kind
yeah.
of made a guy. Don't miss those.
Pachuca has our number though, that's why. And I don't know how. They're the only teams that can do it. Leon would fit in with the Tigres Rayados Toluca category, in my opinion. I think that's a good category to fall under in regards to you know, rivalry matchups. Toluca was a big one early in the early 2000s. Obviously, they've kind of fallen off in that sense of being kind of that rival, but those games against Toluca and the Estadio Nemesio Diaz are never, ever easy whatsoever.
Yeah,
At the peak
great
of
fan base.
yeah, great fan base, and they choose the great time, the best of time to play their games where the sun is just at this highest peak.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, America, Leon, talk to me a little bit about your guys' side. How do you come into this game? Obviously, you guys are coming off a very peculiar matchup
Frustrating.
against well, I was gonna say peculiar, but yeah, frustrating game against Tigres, and where you guys were up winning that game and then eventually ended up splitting the points with Tigres. What's kind of the train of thoughts or the feelings of Leon fans coming into this one? Obviously, you guys have home field advantage, but you guys are desperate for points just as much as we are.
We are. I mean, I think the advantage is we, let go of Baba, which I think his head has, they've been asking for his head for a long time now. So obviously, it came to be, and I think it was at a good moment. And honestly, I've been like, when it was the Baba era, I would not watch the games with much positivity, like want to watch them. I was just like sitting there and I'm like, oh God, like how is this gonna end? And I think with the new coach Berrizo, I definitely had a couple questions because he hasn't coached a club in a while. He's been more of an international coach, but he's had a lot of experience. But I think ever since obviously when we won the San Luis game, we saw a different Leon in this game against Tigres. We saw a more physical Leon, a very more put together Leon, a Leon that it's giving me some hope of what we can look forward to, whether that's we make play in or we don't. But at the end of the day, if we make a decent, if we're able to get to a point where I'm like, okay, we're playing really well, we can look forward to what's yet to come next season, then I'm good with that. And I think because, and that's the frustrating part just over on Liga MX when you get these late like signings and it's just like either they will work instantly for the season that they're coming in, which is very difficult, or they're fixed for next season. But I think in that Tigres game, I mean, it's like I told the guys, I cannot remember the last game that we scored 4 goals. Obviously, 2 of the goals got called back, but it was a long time that we hadn't seen this type of Leon that's they're getting their identity back. A coach that gives me like more emotion to watch these games. And I'm like, he's actually on the sidelines, like yelling, being emotional. Like this is what I had been missing. So obviously after the Tigres game, which to me was very frustrating on so many levels, we are desperate for a win because it would be good for us to get a win against America before this international cup. And then we have 3 games that are on paper look winnable. It's like a Mikey's, anything can happen. That we can probably get a good run after that. So I think for right now, everything's focused on the America game. Yes, we are at home. The ticket prices are quite a lot. But it's sounding like it's going to be a full house. And I'm expecting the Leon that I saw against Tigres, very physical, determined to get 3 points before this international break.
Absolutely. Club America's Mi Pasión saying until Tigres ties, adding 11 minutes at the end. Liga MX is just so amazing for their added time. Absolutely. It's great.
It's just the VAR overall. I have so many questions on the VAR and Liga MX across the board because how is it possible that sometimes a play, because I'll be watching like the Viernes Botanero games, I'll be watching any games, and it's like they take forever to make a decision. It's like, what's the point of having 4 people up there in the little box watching it? And then they have to discuss it 5 minutes, and then they have to call the referee to go and watch it again. And then sometimes like for a yellow card or sometimes for like, oh, nothing happened. It's like, it's ridiculous. And then the time that they added towards the end, sometimes it's insane. So I have so many questions on VAR regarding Liga MX overall, because I think it's messed us all up at one point in our teams.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's crazy, this league. But hey, I think that's why we love it. For the madness. So this game obviously coming up, America versus Leon. I feel like both clubs should get together and be like, okay, America, if you win, you keep Jefecito, but if you win, we'll take him back. I just feel like that's the ideal proper thing to do. You don't agree with that, Kari?
No, I think unfortunately Jefecito for us, we've set him on a pedestal for quite some time. Obviously, with his injuries, the coming back part has not been the best. So obviously, he was at his best. He had injury, came back, struggled, got to a certain point again. So he's kind of been on and off. And I think I've been very pleasant with Chava, because I think desde el principio, even under Baba, like siempre ha sido un jugador cumplido. And I think in this past 2 games, I'm like, this guy is bringing it. And I've been very happy. So I think it's okay with you. I think I'm good. You guys can keep Jefecito.
He hasn't even played for us. Absolutely. He's only played like friendlies, I think. But Chris Rivera has 3 questions for you, Kari. The first one being, do you believe in La Ley del Ex? Can it happen with Davila or Chava Reyes this weekend? Do you think there's a possibility?
It's funny because in our pod we were asking Louis, we're just asking like if we think the fans will boo Davila, because obviously the way Davila left was not in the best way, and I had supported him. Like, look, if he wants to leave to go seek that European dream, great. But the circumstances in which he's coming back all of a sudden kind of makes me feel a bit like, okay, what did you really leave for? Did you just want to get out and now you're coming back to America? So do I think they're gonna boo him? Yes, because unfortunately some fans take it very personal. I don't encourage booing players for many reasons. Like specific players, I don't encourage it. I don't like it. As much as I am a football fan, I know that they are human just like us. They have families, and they can either choose to take it very personal or not, But I think, some things are part of the game, and I think when it comes to stuff like that, I'm like, I don't feel nice to boo to a player that at some point gave our team a lot of triumphs and goals. So, but I think Chava will be a very important component. Like I said, these past couple of matches, I really liked him, and I think he's come through. Him and Diego Hernandez, the other player. So I think he'll play a very important role, especially in this match against America. So I'm happy with Chava Reyes.
All right. How would you take it, Kari? Let's say you're the professional. You're going down there on the pitch. You got 30,000 plus fans out there booing at you. How do you take that?
I think I'm mentally strong to kind of just let it slide off me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of players do have psychologists that they go see on a regular basis to get there, because some players are not mentally strong. Some players le afecta mucho what people say, what the media say, or even like, because you get different personalities. So if they're booing at me, se me resbalaría, like whatever.
Yeah. That's great.
It must be tough though. Like I'm not saying it's easy, but it must be tough. Like if you have a whole stadium like booing at you, like aunque like in that moment, like maybe there's a 1% they're like, dang, like this
Yeah.
doesn't feel good,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I bet. I bet you're just kind of like, Well, you're right. Everyone does take it a little bit differently. I mean, and I guess that's the importance of sports psychology, right? Having
It
having
is, and
professionals like that.
I think, for example, here, since I live in Torreon and I watch all the Santos games, whenever Tigres comes, the difference that they boo Gorearán versus le aplauden a Bruneta. So it's like they boo Gorearán, which he was at Santos, versus they they applaud and they like cheer for whenever Bruneta came. But I think that has a lot to do with when those players were in the club, how they acted with the fans, their interactions, kind of like si les caíste bien, si les caíste mal, and then that they judge kind of like how you left if you're a sellout. Which to me, I'm like, well, they both went to Tigres and they both got paid a lot of money, so why the difference? But I think maybe it's just when they were at the club, how they maybe acted with some fans that the fans chose to like them or not. But here I see the difference,
Yeah.
clear difference.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Now that we're talking about Chava Reyes, Midwestern Cholo saying, can we get Chava Reyes back, please?
No, no,
Chris
no.
Reyes saying to Chava Reyes over Borja. He was a very underappreciated player. Obviously, a player that when he did come to America had a very high ceiling, never really quite got there. But I would say was instrumental in our campeonatos, right? And performed, did well, especially in the clausura to start off the season, right? Scored 2 goals against Cholos. Just kind of did the dirty work. Sometimes wasn't the most flashiest of players, but I guess someone that was dependable. And I think you guys are seeing that right now with Leon. He's gonna be a good player for you guys. And he's still at a very good age, and so I think it's also a plus for him as well. But yeah, also one last question for Chris is he's saying, who do you think won out of the swap deal, Jimenez, for the Jimenez and Cota swap? Do you think you guys got the better end of the stick, or do you think that America did?
Well, it's hard to answer because we haven't given Jimenez any time. And I think when under Bava, we had talked about on the podcast that kind of how rough of the season we started. We had hoped that they would give Jimenez at least Leagues Cup for him to get some playing time because Poncho hadn't had the best of starts. So we're like, okay, since we have Jimenez, why not throw him in Leagues Cup? And that's what we were expecting. Obviously, that didn't happen. And Poncho Blanco had a really good game against Tigres. So do I think we'll see Jimenez anytime soon? Probably not, unless Poncho has a terrible game or he gets injured. I don't think we'll see Jimenez because I really want to see him. Like, si Leon le va a dar un segundo aire. Obviously, under Berrizo and his coaching staff. I think what the media has been saying that Poncho has improved has improved in these past couple of games because of that. So I would just much interested to seeing Jimenez play at some point, just to see, like, okay, give him a shot and seeing who actually, is better.
Yeah,
but with that, I can't really answer. But with Chava, I'm happy. So.
Well, I'm glad that one of those is panned off for you guys. Yeah, if you're Oscar Jimenez, you gotta kind of feel bad because you're riding the bench with America. You leave because you have this kind of thought, or I don't know if maybe there was a promise that you were gonna get starting minutes with Leon, and it all painted that was gonna be the case, and just again riding the bench. He's it's unfortunate. He is a very good, capable goalkeeper.
I've always liked him. Like even when he was on America, I was like, oh, finally, like Oscar Jimenez is playing. No sé, me cae bien. You know what I mean? And obviously he had a couple of bad games, but I've always liked him, and I thought he was a good, solid keeper. So I'm just wanting to see if under Berrizo and and Leon que le pueda dar un segundo aire. But I'm not sure how old Oscar Jimenez is because we're talking about how old Poncho is, and we're like we kind of bloomed a bit later as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think Jimenez is 33, 34.
He's 35.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah, you were close. I think Poncho might be a bit older, no? Poncho Blanco.
No, Poncho has to be at least 32, 33.
No, he's 37. I
Oh,
told you.
God. Wow. Well, Jimenez can't catch a break, and I don't think he's going to catch one anytime soon. So we send our best of wishes to Oscar Jimenez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, that's the sport for you.
Goalkeeper life.
Yeah, it's the
También.
goalkeeper life. It is what it is. No one ever remembers the substitute, the second string goalkeeper, right? It's always the guy who starts ahead, and so it's unfortunate. But he is a guy who's come off the bench and do some good things. So we'll see if he ever gets minutes with you guys.
Yeah.
Back to this game. Obviously you guys mentioned the reality of what this game means to you. I think from an America perspective, and anyone listening to this is obviously looking for that America perspective, and it's gonna be a must-win game. And America has no more leeway to drop points whatsoever. And I think you have to start looking at the remainder of the season and start really looking ahead and thinking, okay, which games are more favorable, which games are more much more winnable, and this Leon one seems like it's a very good place to start in trying to kind of scale back up the table, winning some very important points, especially on the road. And so I think it will be important for America to kind of take this game literally in the sense of like it's a must-win matchup in all senses. And so I think that Harine has a very difficult task at hand, and it's kind of dissecting how are we going to come into this game, win it, because you don't necessarily need to win this game and look your flashiest and look your best. But it's something that, especially when me and Dylan used to podcast, we would say, this late on into the season, you shouldn't be having to try to figure out your playing style. You should have already adapted and started perfecting your playing style. And I think America has been dealt a very unfortunate blow with the amount of injuries we've had. There hasn't really been a moment in where America has had a full healthy squad for us to kind of really think, okay, what's going to be our playing style? What's going to be our new identity? Obviously, you lose a player like Quiñones, which was which was very much influential to your offense, and now you have to kind of change your style a little bit. But we've never really had that moment, and so and I still don't think we get that with you guys this weekend. Obviously, we're missing players. The good thing is, right, Chava Reyes looks like, no, not Chava Reyes, sorry, Israel Reyes looks like he's going to be coming back, probably on the bench. Cáceres as well. But Cáceres is a little bit more of a don't hold your breath type of situation. It might be not until next week. But slowly but surely getting back those players. And now the question is, does America come in trying to play that back five again and try to soak up the pressure and relieve on the counter, or does America play their typical 4-2-3-1 formation and kind of adapt as the game goes by? That's going to be the real interesting question to see, is what is that answer going to be for Jardine, and that's going to be kind of the real head scratcher for him. And so we'll see. But regardless, America needs to come out and look for this game. You can't rely on a draw and say, okay, we can kind of build from this. I think you need the 3 points, because if you don't, it's that automatic qualification into Liga is starting to look further and further away. Because at this point, you're at the mercy of everybody else in front of you, and hoping that their results don't go their way. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, Kari. An interesting one at that. That game's going to be at Saturday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. And for you, Kari, that game is at 9 p.m. So a nice 9 p.m. match for Sábado Futbolero.
Definitely. Another 9 o'clock game. So I'll probably be having a beer, getting mad at the TV.
Who is it? Who is not getting mad at the TV at that time? So that game's going to be, obviously, for the people here at the States, going to be on TUDN and Univision Network, which is most likely just going to be Univision and TUDN. Kari, I know that that's not the case for you guys over in Mexico. What channel is like Fox Sports?
Fox Sports. It's annoying because I have to scramble to watch like different games at for their different streams. Before I think they finally cut it, but before it was Fox Sport. Whenever Leon played home, it was Fox Sports Mexico and Claro Sports on YouTube, which Claro Sports was free, so you can easily YouTube all the Leon games. And I would rather do that than listen to Fox Sports. But yes, it is Fox Sports Mexico, which some of those games they do on regular TV like Sky or VIX.
Mm.
It's yeah, and I hate VIX, but I have to have it because that's
Yeah,
just how it is sometimes.
that's the life. They're gonna make you slowly but surely getting behind that paywall.
Yeah.
Um, well, talk to me. What do you expect Leon to come out with? What's your anticipated kind of formation for you guys? I know that you guys said on your podcast, I was listening to it, that you guys felt that if America did take the game to you guys, the train of thought is that you guys were going to try to catch us on the counter and kind of break and punch us in that sense. Do you think that Leon is going to play that game, going to play a little bit more of reserved, kind of not necessarily sit back, but just kind of soak up pressure and try to relieve on the counter? Or do you think there's a slight chance that you guys might take the game to us?
That's an interesting question because I don't know exactly. I think under Berriza and what he's planning against America versus Tigres, I think we took the game against Tigres. But we are home, so like as much as people say like, oh, the la gente sí se mete en el partido, and they do create an atmosphere, especially there in Leon. So I think what I've seen so far on the counter, we have really good players. We have players like Mendoza, we have players like Diego Hernandez, and Cabral, who lately they've really showed out. Um, so I think we'll probably, I mean, either or. I guess we'll have to kind of feel and step in the game and kind of see, you know, what happens and kind of go from there. But I do think up top we have really good players that can do a lot of damage on the counter attack for sure.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it's just interesting to hear because I honestly don't know how America's going to come out and play this game. I want to say that America's going to go and try to play their style of football, which has always been control the game, control the ball, and kind of put you guys on against the ropes and see whether or not we're able to break down your guys' defense. But as of recently, it felt like America's trying to find a way to be comfortable with playing scrappy, with soaking up pressure, with trying to get on the counter. But I just don't feel like that's the smartest move to make at this point. America still, in a way, has control of their own destiny in their hands. And if they want to get to a promising position, I think that we need to go out there and play our game. Can't really divert. I understand the necessities for needing to tweak formations or needing to tweak tactics here and there because of the injuries. But I think that you're still capable of doing all of that with the players we have and still not lose that integrity of your formation. So I think it'll be interesting to see what Hadine has lined up for us. But honestly, I do hope that we don't see that backfire for a long, long, long time. Unless we're like winning by 1-0 and we got like 15 minutes left, and of course, park the whole bus. We need the points.
Park the whole bus.
All of it. Just substitute a second goalkeeper if you need to. Put out there. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game. Should be. I want to say it's gonna be a fun back and forth matchup with a lot of chances. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say that this game feels like a very dull, one goal type of match, where both teams, they're desperate for the points, but neither team wants to be the first to kind of blink and maybe risk anything. And so it feels like it's going to be a lot of and we correlate a lot of boxing to when we preview games, and it feels like it's gonna be a lot of jabbing from both sides. It's who's gonna take that risk, who's gonna take that first swing. We'll have to wait and see. It's with both teams needing the points desperately, especially with you guys being at home. I would expect for you guys to try to do something a little bit more aggressively, and then
Yeah.
something that we can kind of counter on. But regardless, I think it's gonna be 90 minutes of an interesting matchup nonetheless, and so we'll see what happens. What would you like to add to this preview, Kari? I feel like I'm running out of questions here.
No, I think obviously, ever since the change between Bava and Berizzo and seeing a different Leon, I am a bit more confident that we can give you guys a good game like we did against Tigres. If this was still under Bava, I would probably be on here very depressed, saying nos van a golear 5-0. I have no hope. Like I'm gonna go, cut my veins with lettuce leaves because this is like depressing at this point. But no, I mean under Berizzo, like le ha dado un diferente aire a León that I'm very excited to see what's next and what he does. So I'm feeling a bit more confident in this León America game, and I think the guys are hungry after what happened with versus Tigres, a very strong opponent, and you guys are a strong opponent. We really, really need and want those 3 points before international break. I think it's like a must. So I do think it's going to be a very good game. I know Guardado got called up for his farewell for la Selección Mexicana. Obviously, he started last game against Tigres. I'm not expecting him to start, and I think it would be in everybody's best interest just because obviously he has used those 2 games for Selección, and I think we could probably slot in a different player in there. And obviously, I think a big piece missing for quite some games now is Adonis Frias, which he's had another medical issue going on that's kind of been keeping him off, and he's just a very strong backbone wall in the defense that we're missing. So I hope he comes back really soon. But yeah, I think nothing more. But I think it's going to be interesting. Our last attacking third, I think, will do a lot of damage, and I'm hoping to leave happy that game.
Well, we'll see who ends up the happier out of the two. We'll see if any of us end up walking happy. Because I think if it's a draw, if a draw, I think you guys are a little bit more favorable in that aspect.
Yeah.
Us, I don't think we will. But we'll see. We'll see. The criticism will continue to rain on as long as America stays in 11th place on the league table. And so if we can't scale that, then it's gonna be another week of listening to.
I don't think I've seen you guys in that position in forever.
No, it's been a long
time in the table.
Time. Yeah,
I'm just like, America's in 11th. Like, is it gonna rain tomorrow or something? It's crazy.
It's been a bad year.
It's been a very good couple of seasons for you guys. You just at this point in time are in a bad position.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just obviously right. It's. I love to say that soccer fans have the shortest memory, and people obviously we just became bicampeones, and yet we're over here criticizing a team that's sitting in 11th place after winning a bicampeonato. It's crazy, but that's the reality of being an Americanista, right? Nothing's ever good enough, and so you always have to strive for more. And so
I think it's not just that. I think it's just because I see it here all the time with the Club Santos fans, and I'm just like, this is just a totally different Santos fans breed that I'm glad I have my own, heart team that I root for. But I feel like obviously since the format of Liga MX is what it is in the short terms, it does, correlate to what you say of, fans have short-term memory versus you wonder if Liga MX was in the long, format, how different maybe their opinions would be then.
Yeah, absolutely. It shifts a little bit in that sense for everybody, but the reality we live in is just, I think it is that short memory because there are short tournaments and you don't really get a breather in that sense. It's like, okay, ended, you go again. So Alan St. Leon has Cadiz, who's 6'4", will be an aerial threat. And America is known for doing terrible at aerial battles.
He's really, really good. He's hopefully Just like Viñas was líder de goleo. Hopefully Cadiz is too. He already has 5 goals. So
Well, that's right.
um,
Vinas spent some time with you guys as well.
yeah, we miss him dearly.
He's doing his
But I
thing
think
out there in
Cadiz
Europe.
has yeah. I mean, he's still recovering and stuff. But I think Cadiz has come to fill those shoes that Viñas kind of left. And thank you guys for giving us Viñas because he was just the best player
Well, that's
during
okay.
that time.
He wasn't gonna do much with America. Just kind of luggage, pick up luggages here and there. Cruz Rivera saying Ivan is mad even after wins, and that is true. He can
Yes,
attest to that.
yes, I know, Ivan. He expects the best of
I expect
every
perfection.
America game. Yes, perfection.
Yeah. Well, perfection for 90 minutes. I don't think that's the hardest thing to
You're
do.
like,
After that, just
America scores 5-0, 5-1 against Leon. You'd be mad because they got one in. You're like, that's not acceptable. Like,
no,
they
it's
should
not.
have not
That clean
received the
sheet is
goal.
important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I Kari, you know me for a long time, and so
Yes.
I'm a very nitpicky guy when it comes to those type of situations. I always find something to pick at, which is probably not the
Yes.
best trait.
Honestly, you should coach like a local team because they need coaches with that mentality that they're not just like, okay, guys, like you all did your best. Here's your,
Here's your
ribbon
cupcake,
of
and then
yeah, no. Like, no, you don't get a cupcake because you didn't do well today in your position.
yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I'd be the Tuca Ferretti of youth soccer. Absolutely. No, I mean I would love to one day coach. That that'll be somewhere along the lines of my future, hopefully.
You'd be a good coach.
Yeah,
Good mentality.
that'd be great. Absolutely. Well, all right, Cuddy, let's hear your prediction. Let's see if it changes from your own podcast. I'm curious to hear after our discussion. What is your prediction for Saturday's matchup?
It does not change. I think it would be a very entertaining game, like they always are, very intense. I think what I've seen, tickets are almost sold out. So it'll be a good live home match. And my prediction at that pod was 3-2, and I'm sticking to that with a Leon win, and my guys are happy, and we're going into international break with finally 3 points that we are desperately needing for this run.
When I heard you and who else was the other person that gave that 3-2 prediction, I was thinking, where are you guys
Heavy.
thinking these goals are coming from? I think, like, I honestly see this game feels like a one goal type of match where whoever scores is gonna win type of situation. Um, I mean, I would love a thriller, right? It's been a while since we've seen a good matchup like that with a bunch of goals. Um, but yeah, I mean that'd be interesting. That'd be great to see a matchup like that. Obviously, it wouldn't be great for America to lose 3-2, but still, yeah, be interesting.
I mean, if it was Bava, I'd depressingly say you guys are going to win like 3-0, 4-0, and I'd be happy with that. No, I'm serious.
Never in my life that we've been doing this, cutting. We've been doing this for a long time now. Never have I heard you come onto the podcast and not back your team. So that's wild to think
Pues
that there could have been a chance.
Under the Bava, it was the darkest era, and on the pod we kept talking about Leon's dark era when it was Chavo Diaz before Nacho Ambriz came and changed the course of Leon's future during that time. But under Baba, it was a dark area. It was dark era. Like we were depressed. Like I was just not looking forward to my team. Like, can you imagine like el equipo de tus amores to have you feel like that? Like,
oh yeah, no, I lived
it's
it
sad.
2008 with America.
Well, yeah, llovió multiple
Yeah,
times.
absolutely.
2008.
Well,
But no, I'm a bit more confident even. So, like you said, it could be a 1-0 in favor of Leon, and I'd be happy. But I just think you guys are desperate. We're desperate. The tension. You guys want to, win and get up there. We also do. So I think it opens up for a good possible thriller.
well, let's hope it is the case. So AJ doesn't fall asleep while covering this matchup on a late Saturday evening. So it's gonna be at 11 o'clock at night for him. So shout out to AJ. Alan's saying we're winning 2-0, so he's going to America 2-0. I love the fact that he's throwing in a clean sheet. Love me a clean sheet. Let's see. Do we have any more predictions here in the chat? Um, Club America's mi posición saying America only scores 5-1 versus Toluca. I missed that part. I think that's when you were saying America. Alan, for some reason, changed his prediction to 9-0, but I think he's just kind of trolling us here. But Club America's mi posición saying
Under
that
Bava, yes. Not anymore.
0-1 or 0-2 can't be losing points, and I think he gets it. It's important, so he's going with this victory. Another clean sheet. Chris is saying my mind says 1-1, but my heart says 1-0 America. Again, another good prediction there. I'm loving all these clean sheets. Alan saying JK, it's not 9-0. He's going 3-1 America. Leon has improved a lot, especially versus Tigres. So one thing's for sure, there's gonna be at least a goal. So no one's predicting a 0-0, which gives me a lot of confidence that Sunday we'll see at least a goal. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting matchup. I think it's gonna be hopefully a fun one, like you predicted, Kari, right? With both teams kind of knowing that they need to improve and they need to do their best. I'm sticking with my 1-0 prediction. I think it's gonna go on in the favor of America. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we get a lot of goals. And yeah, it's just hopefully it's a good matchup. Midwestern Cholo agreeing with me. Shout out to Midwestern Cholo from Dylan. He I forgot Midwestern Cholo. I forgot that Dylan wanted me to say a shout out to you specifically. But yeah, it's gonna be hopefully an entertaining game and a good way to close out Saturday night and start Sunday football. It's gonna be a long weekend, so we'll see what happens in that perspective. But anything to add on, Kari?
No. I mean, I hope Kari scores. Platano's been coming on the comeback as well, so yeah, no, just if Davila scores, he will get booed at for sure.
And you know what? As soon as you said that, the comment came in that hopefully Davila scores. So we'll see. Hopefully La Ley del Ex comes in and favors us. If not, then they'll favor you guys. But yeah, like I said, hopefully it's a good matchup and an entertaining one, and I'm sure we'll be in discussion throughout that matchup. It's always fun whenever these two teams meet up, at least for our friendship in that sense. So it's
Definitely.
It's the Eagle Eye Podcast and Lines and Clásico. So we'll find an acronym for that. But yeah, I think that's all I got as well. So I guess we won't keep you guys here any longer. Kari, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Again, it's great to talk. I know it's been a minute since we've had you on, but always enjoy whenever you do come on and bash America just a little bit.
I don't bash America. I'm just very harsh because this is football, and we can't all just be saying pretty nice things about all the teams. They have their ups and they have their downs.
Absolutely. Well, you're catching us on a down, so.
No, I thank you for having me. It's always great to be here, especially talking to you. And yes, our friendship goes back a long time, and we always know that these games will push us a bit to the edge when we're rage messaging back and forth whenever a Leon America game is on. But no, thank you for having me, and hopefully it's a good match. And regardless of whatever happens, hopefully you guys make it. In the end, make a good run and put yourselves in a good position on the table, and go from there.
Yeah, likewise, and hopefully we're seeing each other in a couple of weeks' time whenever we're talking Liga. So it'd be great to re-encounter ourselves in that sense.
Definitely, congratulations again on Campeones Cup and on what you guys have done in the past couple of seasons, and nothing but the best. I mean, despite that, I love you guys. You guys are my friends. I want to see you happy, and just disregard my comments sometimes because I'm just raging in my own sense.
No. Well, thank you so much. We love you, and we're happy to have you on the podcast always and forever. And thank you for your felicitaciones. But still, in my eyes, it's not good enough. We got to keep going and pushing forward. That is that. Well, shout out to everyone too that was on the chat here. Club America's Mi Pasión, Alan, Midwestern Cholo, Chris. I like planes. It's been a minute since I've seen I like planes. Really, honestly, everybody, Ritual, thank you so much. I'm sorry that we had that little hiccup in between, in the middle of the show with the whole audio issue. But glad that you guys hit that refresh button and things were working out just fine. With that said, again, thank you, Kari. Shout out to everyone in the Lions Den podcast. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do to continue this Liga MX English community thriving strong. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. Talk all things Club America ahead of the international break. With that said, you guys have a wonderful night. And as always, Arriba la America. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.